Hey everyone, my name is Dave. Welcome to the NTD Racing Speed Shop. Today, we're going to be putting king shocks on our Class 11 racer named Trooper. And if you've been following along with the build, you're probably wondering, what was this tube back here all for? We're going to show you right now as we mount the rear shocks onto the back of Trooper. So as we get down to the end of any one of our builds, we end up just fabricating a bunch of tabs and little parts and those kinds of things. And so how do you do that? So I'm going to show you why the Langmuir Systems CrossFire tables, whether you're using a Pro or you're using an XR, is one of the most amazing things that you can add to your shop. So I'm going to show you real time as I make one of the tabs to mount the king shocks to our trailing arms. I'm going to show you how quick that can be done. A whole lot faster than driving to the store to get one. Let's go ahead and get to the build. Looking at the back of Trooper, this is where the shock mounts are going to go. This is the trailing arm that we just made, and then it's going to go onto this 2-inch tube. I made this a 2-inch tube so that it could receive a lot of loads from shocks, and then also maybe some of the supports that would go down here to the transmission and all those kinds of things. But as far as the shock mount goes, what we're going to be making today is this lower mount. I'm going to show you exactly how long it takes me to make one of those. There's a little bit of dimensioning I'm going to do first. What I want this thing to do is pretty much be lined up with this tube. As much as I can have it happen, I want it to be straight in line with that. So as that suspension goes up and down, the shock isn't kind of canting off to a side. Down here, I want it to be as long as I can possibly get it to distribute that load across that trailing arm. It's also going to make this thing a little bit stronger. And then I want the loads to land right on this seam right here where this plate goes across. This is going to be where it will be able to take the greatest loads, I think, on this thing. So what we'll do is we'll start by taking a couple dimensions, and then we're going to hop on Fusion 360 and we'll start the clock. Okay, so just a little bit of cheating here. I've already got the metal on my plasma cutter. It's already at 0 point. I've already got air in the compressor. So all I have to do is turn on my plasma cutter, my Razor Weld 45. Here are my dimensions right here on the table. Let's go ahead and start the clock right now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to tell this thing I want to do a sketch. And I'm going to pick this plane here, which is the X and the Y plane, which is what all plasma cutters cut on. I'm going to hit the C key, which is a hot key, and it's going to bring up a circle. And I'm going to cut a hole that's 0.53 because I'm putting a 1/2-inch bolt through there. I'm going to overcut it just a little bit so that the bolt will fit through there. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit the hot key C again, and I'm going to make another circle. This is going to be 1.75-inch circle. That's how big the outside of this thing is going to be. I'm going to hit the L key for a line, X key, which is going to bring up my construction lines, and I'm going to draw a line straight down, which is 1 inch. I'm just drawing pictures here with lines and circles. It's super easy to do. And I'm hitting the hotkey L and bringing a line again. This line's going to go out 1 inch, and then hotkey L one more time. And on the other side, this line's going to go out 2 inches, which is going to make the 3-inch base I'm making. Somebody showed me this trick. It's really cool. I'm going to grab this circle. I'm going to hold the mouse down, and it's going to make a tangential line to that circle. I'm going to bring it down to that point. It's going to snap to it and make that point. Do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to get the scissors over here, cut the pieces that I don't want, and there is a tab I want. Hotkey E for extrude. 0.1875 is how thick I want this thing, and there is my part, but I want 2 of them. Hotkey M is going to allow me to make a copy. I'm going to spin that copy upside down. I'm going to put it right next to it. Give myself a little bit of room in between so it'll cut, and I can also make the entry and exit right there. And then I'm going to say, okay, now I'm ready to go to CAM. That's the CAD part. We're going over to CAM. So I'm going to go to manufacturer's thing. I'm going to go to the setup. I'm going to pick this box point up here, and then we're going to call this the lower shock mount. All right, I'm hit OK on that. It's going to give me a warning because I didn't select both of them. That's not that big of a deal. I'm going to go to cutting. This is going to be the part that's going to take the longest because my computer is so slow. I have like one of the off-the-shelf computers from Best Buy. This is like the cheapest computer you could own. So it takes a little while for it to bring up, well, for some reason, the tool library. It should come up here in a couple seconds. But while it is coming up, let me say that during this video, if you think, man, I could use one of these plasma tables in my own shop, well, code NTD Racing at checkout will get you $100 off, and I get a little commission. You save some bucks, everyone's happy, and I do appreciate it when you do that. Also, if you just check the link in the description below, and it will it'll take you right to Langmuir Systems, and it will also apply that code to anything you buy there, especially the CrossFire XR. All right, there. It took that long for it to let me pick my plasma cutter. We're going to go ahead and make this number. We're cutting into 3/16 inch steel, so this will be 70 inches per minute, and we're going to enter and exit at 55 inches per minute. Yeah, I want to ignore that warning. I accidentally, man, let's go. I'm going to have to go back over and do that all over again. Rat farts. All right, so it still has that in there. I'm going to go and select these two parts. Man, I'm even wasting time. This is going to be 0.05 for the radius. I always enter and exit there at 90 degrees. And then this number, usually as big as you can get it. And let's go ahead and pick this point right there and that point right there for the entry and exit points. Now we're going to generate the G code, or there's what it is. We're actually going to generate G code now. I want to check to make sure that my pierce delay is 0.2. We're going to the Trooper rear suspension. I'm going to post this thing. Now we're ready to, it's posted. I'm ready to go over to fire control. I can open up that folder, which is already opened. Lower shock mounts. There we go. There is a thing we just made. I'm just going to turn on the plasma cutter, ready to cut. All right, some safety protection goggles on, some hearing protection fingers in my ears, and let's start. Boom. All right, it would literally take me longer to go get the keys for my car than just to do that. So pretty impressive. Let's go take a look at the part. All right, I'm living in sin. No water in my water table. I've been working on roll cages. I've been welding roll cages the last couple of days, so everything's dried up in here. But here is the part right out of the table. Check out that cut. With a little bit of flap disc time on my magnetic vise, this is going to be ready to weld right to the trailing arm. All right, gantries are super useful, I find, in the garage for just lifting things. I use it all the time when I'm welding to bring stuff up to a really comfortable welding height. What we're doing here, this little slug that's in there is about a couple thousandths wider than the bearing that's on the King shock. So we'll be welding this thing up with Harbor Freight's Vulcan Pro TIG 205. I've been welding this entire roll cage and everything with this welder so far. It's been great. I did add on the CK torch, which gives me a 25-foot lead and a flexible head also. Today what we'll be doing is I'll be welding this 3/16 to 1/8 inch plate. I'm gonna go with 180 amps. This thing is only really rated to 150, but for a short weld, that should be okay. I'll just build up some heat in there. Let's go ahead and get this thing welded on. It is a fast-moving ball game. The pile of stuff that is not on the car is getting smaller, and the car is getting more complete right now. I've got some aluminum sheet here, which I got to clear the whole table off. So this is some 1/8 inch, some other 1/8 inch diamond plate. I got to clear that off so I can get these 10-foot pieces on there because I'll be cutting panels for Ghost. This is another roll cage that I built. So all this stuff came off the table. This is what I usually keep on there. I just kind of, like a deck of cards, keep shuffling it onto the table. And so I can cut, it's 1/4 inch plate, it's 3/16 and a whole bunch of aluminum down there also. Let me show you some of the things that I've been cutting. So first, let's take a look at those tabs that are burned in there. These, they came out pretty good. What I like to do when I build tabs is I want to make them as short as I possibly can. I want to make this moment arm, this thing gets as short as possible, which increases the strength, and that's why that's so close, and I just have minimum clearance underneath the shock. Besides that, I built the top mounts for the shocks. I also cut these pieces right here, which mount the shock reservoirs. I cut this piece to hold in the fuel tank out of some diamond plate. You can't do that unless you got torch height control. This piece right here, which holds our fuel pump and our filter, our discriminator valve. Cut some pieces up here which hold the clean air filter for our helmets. Just a ton of different parts. You can just crank out parts just rapidly when you have a plasma table. I mean, just in one day, I made all of these parts and just welded them all up. So here's the welder I was using. So I have a Miller over here, and I've talked about this before. I love my Miller. That being said, this thing has something the Miller does not. I always do lift arc with the Miller. This thing has the high frequency start. And after using it for a while, I don't think I can do without it. I love the high frequency start. This welder is just amazing, and I might actually just park the Miller and keep welding with this thing. I think it's that good. All right, so I'm not a professional welder. I'm not gonna tell you that all my welds are perfect. Sometimes they kind of look like this, which looks pretty good. It's got good fusion, it just doesn't look pretty. And then sometimes I'll hit a weld, I'm like, oh man, I'm just the best welder in the world. And the next one will be, okay. As far as how they look, but the welds are solid. They're not going to come off. Never had a weld fail, especially if I was TIG welding. And I'm super confident as I can kind of see the way that the welds are going down with this Pro TIG 205. So anyway, great welder. All right, I've been using the plasma tables for about 4 years. There just isn't another tool that I can think of in this price range where you can just rapidly go from concept to design to manufacturing like you can with a plasma table. And I just happen to think that the Langmuir Systems CrossFire tables are just some of the best out there. If after watching this you think, oh, wow, we could use one of these in our shop, there's a link in the description below which will take you to Langmuir Systems. And if you click on that link, or if you use code NTD Racing at checkout, it should save you about $100. I am an affiliate with them. I'll get some bucks also from that, and that's how we kind of pay for all of the stuff that we do here. I will tell you about 200 people have purchased tables using my table. I've never heard a complaint from a single person. However, a lot of guys have written out saying that they appreciate the information and it just changed what they were able to do in their own shop. There will also be a link in the description for the Harbor Freight Pro TIG 205. I think it's an amazing welder. So you could also start doing projects just like this at a price that won't break the budget with some amazing equipment. We have a lot of stuff coming up as we're getting ready for the Mint 400. We're gonna be streaming that. So one thing I will ask, besides obviously a subscribe, which helps us out, just the way that YouTube works, the only way that you might know that another episode is coming up or our live stream is coming up is if you activate notifications by clicking on the bell symbol right below this video. Anyway, can't wait to see you next week. Take care of yourself.